Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 29th June 2016. The first article is related to the Smart Cities mission. So in this, the government is about to spend around 50,000 crore rupees, and the states and the local governments has to provide for equal amount of matching grants. So the objective is to build the smart cities across various states. And also the smart cities are selected based on a challenge method. So in this context, let us see what are the challenges for these smart cities. So most of the projects which are proposed by the states, these are area-based projects rather than the entire city-based projects. It means that a particular area in a city will be selected, and this area will be provided with all amenities and will be demarcated as business districts, and they will be exposed as the face of that particular city. Now let's take, in Hyderabad, we can talk about the Cyber City Hub. In Bangalore, they can talk about this Marthalli and Mahadevapura. So in that way, they will take certain areas and they develop them as the business districts. So then obviously it is going to create certain islands of development with kayas all around the city. And obviously when there is a developed and underdeveloped region simultaneously coexisting, then the crime will spill over from the underdeveloped area to the developed area. And second is, this obviously it is going to pull up the land prices. So what it can be argued is the smart cities mission is more about land monetization, and this land monetization is presented as a national urban policy. And the third thing is coordination and convergence between various programs. The NDA government, it has launched Swachh Bharat Mission, Housing for All, National Urban Livelihood Mission, Hruday, and all these things have come into existence. But there is no convergence across these different programs in India. And fourth is, to implement this smart cities mission, in every city a special purpose vehicle is made, and this is given the responsibility to implement the projects. Then instead of giving it to the urban local bodies, making it for the special purpose vehicle is going to have a remarkable disadvantage. The capacities of the local bodies will never be built in these circumstances. And coming to the next article, how to read the popular will. What is the context of this article? Now recently there is a Brexit which has been decided on the basis of a referendum. So how can we make our decisions based on a referendum? For example, the referendum is spread on a course of 1 month, and during this month the emotions of the people can be raised surrounding a particular issue. So based on this, if you make the decisions masses who do not have proper information or misinformation, if they vote for it, then obviously it is going to make the future bleak. So if you take the constitutional democracy, in the constitutional perspective, the checks and balances are created. But in the referendum, do we have these checks and balances is the question. So the direct democracy has its own challenges. The first major challenge is very costly. And the second thing is, the people can be made to vote through misinformation over a short span of time. So that's why the challenges to this, how they have to be rectified. The author says that at least 3 referendums have to be conducted on a major issue spread over the 6-year span of time, so that people can be reasoned out, a rational logic will prevail in making the decisions. The second thing is, the outcomes of the referendum, they shall be subjected to the scrutiny of the parliament, and they shall not be automatically binding. And third thing, the referendum shall not be decided based on a simple majority, but it has to be based on 3/4 or 2/3 majority. So like this, checks and balances are very much necessary with regard to the calculation of popular will. Now, why the hesitations of the history matter? This is in the context of recent India's last bid to the membership of NSG. So, if you take any multilateral diplomacy, it is entirely different from the bilateral diplomacy. In a bilateral diplomacy, so the relative power positions of both the nations that matter, but they are of little significance in the multilateral diplomacy. So now, India believed that US has all its weight behind India. But US itself is unable to get certain things of its national interest passed in the multilateral agencies. Now, with regard to UN Security Council reforms, if you see, India has wanted to put it for vote in UN General Assembly. So finally it did not go forward because African Union did not agree for the reforms. Now India also proposed for disarmaments, human rights and many other issues at a UN General Assembly. And in the multilateral diplomacy they are well received and India has the great legitimacy. But however, when it has brought in the Kashmir issue, etc., in the multilateral forums, it is not getting the same respect it is because the first things, these are provided for the common good, but these are based on the self-interest of India. So in this context, if anything has to promote the self-interest of a nation, so we need to build that consensus very carefully. It means that diplomacy shall have the depth, that have that patience, and it has to provide for a proper logical understanding to all the countries about the intentions of the nation. So this is where India has failed to make the countries to agree for. So that's why persuasion is necessary to prepare the proper ground to push the reason for a self-interest. So India has missed this major logic at NSG. And coming to the end of the confrontation, or end the confrontation, sorry. Now you know that National Capital Territory of Delhi, it is not given a full state status. The second thing is, you have the central government and which has got the control over the many of the affairs of the state. Now AAP government is demanding for a state category to the Delhi. So in this case, the 14 bills which have been passed by the State Legislative Assembly of Delhi, these are being sent back by the President of India. So in this case, what the center said is, any bill which has to be introduced in the State Legislative Assembly, it has to be recommended by, or it has to be prior assent has to be given by the central government, and no prior assent was taken. That's why these bills cannot be passed or assented by the President of India. What the AAP says is, it quotes for National Capital Territory of Delhi Act 1991. According to this, a bill cannot be rejected solely on the basis that it did not get the prior assent from the central government. So, but it is like this. The center is trying to narrowly interpret and Delhi is trying to see the broad contours of this particular law. Moreover this, the major problem between the center and Delhi is the growing trust deficit. So because of this trust deficit, they are unable to find a common ground, and the victims of this are the people of Delhi. So to the possible extent, as quick as possible, this confrontation has to be ended for the spirit of good governance. And coming to the Panchayati Raj Ministry, the UPA-1 government, it has created this ministry. The specific need of this ministry is to empower the panchayats and build the capacities of the panchayats to conduct their affairs. So panchayats shall not remain just as conduit channels for the delivery of governmental programs, but they have to be the real institutions of the local government. For that we need this particular ministry. The major important things it has taken up is index of devolution was developed by this ministry, and activity mapping at what level, what functions have to be performed in panchayats, that is been provided by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and the training, implementation of backward regions grant fund, and Rajiv Gandhi Swashaktikaran Abhiyan. All these have been implemented by the Panchayati Raj Ministry. So now it is facing an closure and it will be reduced to a department under the Ministry of Rural Development. And credible policing. Now in Bastar, in Chhattisgarh, so there is a decreased incidence of the Naxal movement. So what has been said is, a Naxalism is not just a law and order problem, it is also a developmental challenge. So seeing that from a developmental perspective and providing for credible policing, and which respects the rights of the people, and this is what is the reason for decrease in the Naxal influence according to the DGP DM Avasthi in Chhattisgarh. Now coming to census data, So the 2011 census data says that average age of marriage has increased in India. For women, it has increased from 18.2 years to 22.6, and for men, it is from 19.2 years to 23.5 years between 2001 and 2011. So, in this context, what might be the reasons? One is employment related migration has increased in the country, and the second thing is the levels of enrollment in the schools have increased, and more girl children are getting educated, and educational levels of the society in general also have raised. So because of this, the livelihood opportunities have become more important, and more than in this context, obviously it is a natural outcome of this particular change in the society. And joining the allied non-proliferators, you know that there are four disarmament groups. One is NSG, the second one is Missile Technology Control Regime, and the third one is Wassenaar group. After that we have Australia group. So in this, India has tried in NSG but it did not go through. In MTCR, which is a 34 country group, India was recently admitted. So in this context, so India being the member of MTCR, it will get the capacity to use or it will get the rights to import the drones from United States, and also it can export its missile technology to other countries which are partners to this. So in this case, the MTCR provides for an easy import of the technologies, especially dual-use technologies from United States of America. So in this case, the space program, the cryogenic engines, etc., we can import them, and also we can get the technology that is the best use of it. How India has become the member of MTCR? Because India is a credible supplier, and also it is a credible market with regard to the missile technologies are concerned. So that's why based on this, India got the membership to the MTCR. So these are the articles for today. Thank you very much.